This episode of the WP Minute is brought to you by Pressable. You know what the best hosting feels like? Nothing. No panic alerts. No mystery downtime. No, hey, is the site down? Slack messages. That's the Pressable experience. WordPress hosting so reliable you forget it's even there. We keep your site fast, secure, and up 100% of the time, so you can get back to building, selling, blogging, or binging cat videos. No judgment, whatever you want to do. Go to Pressable.com/WP Minute and try hosting that disappears in all the right ways. Pressable.com/WP Minute. Pressable.com/WP Minute. Thanks, Pressable, for supporting the show.
Good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Whose WordPress Agency Is This Anyway? My name's Toby Krines. I'm here with the memorable, the legend, Kurt Von Annen. How's your day going, Kurt?
Toby, it's awesome to be here. I thought you were going to do that movie. Good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, Good night.
Love that movie.
That's a fun movie. That is a really fun movie. I thought we would dive in right away, just go right into the meat of stuff, and let's talk about what it's like to build an agency. And I'm in the middle of making a course actually about how to launch an agency. And one of the things that I struggled with, and I think others do, and now I'm going to ask you, did you ever overcome that feeble sense of, do I own an agency or am I really unemployed?
I think, it's a great question. I don't think I felt employed initially. We'll start there. I mean, I think that maybe the point where I start to where I felt employed was maybe when I started paying myself as a W-2 employee. So maybe it was more like a process change where I was like, okay, now I'm an employee of the Mighty Mo. I have a paycheck that's landing. I pay myself once a month, a certain amount. And I think that's helped. It's also helped my wife to kind of think of it as an employment situation, because she's like not worrying, not thinking. She knows that some amount of money is going to land and the insurance is going to be paid. And I also pay some of our bills because, like, our cell phones and certain internet gets paid for because I have a home office and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of that kind of adds up. I do feel there's something about feeling like it's not going to fall apart at any point in time. Like, it's not just like on the brink all the time. Like, that I feel like there's some permanence that exists that would be similar to having a job at a company.
To me, it's amazing. Like, if I opened up a machine shop, let's just say I took out a loan for $6 million, and I had a building built, and I put, a bunch of machines in there, and I ordered a bunch of, $500,000 worth of steel, and I put some employees in there. I went, and what are we doing? I don't know. We're making bridge plates or something, right? We're making something. Everyone's going to look at that, like, as they're going to talk, oh, look at that. He's an awesome founder. He's adding jobs to the community. Look at that really cool new building. And there's the sense that that's employment. Like, that's a real entity. It's a real thing. And then there's this weirdness that happens when you work in the digital space. Like, when people are like, oh, that's cool that you have that hobby building websites and all, but are you going to go get a job? And it's curious when I talk to different people, when did that vacate? When did that go away? Because now we moved here from California to Kansas, and there's people that, run the entrepreneur groups and stuff here in Kansas, and they introduce me to other people like, oh, he moved his agency here, right? And it's like, I'm just working out of my home office. Like, right. If I was still with friends that knew me from when I was younger, they would still think I was working on my hobbies.
Right.
I meet strangers, and they treat it like it's an entity. It's an entity. It's a real business.
Yeah, well,
it's interesting how that changes. It changes the way I communicate it to new people, the way I talk to clients, the way that I interact with others is different now. And it's weird because I've been an agency since 2008.
Yeah, and I think for the outside world, something changes when you have a physical location, like a storefront. Like, we can't even be in like the neighborhood business association because I don't have a storefront. If I hung up a sign, then I could join their organization. But without that, I'm just some guy in a basement.
You're just some weird dude.
And the Chamber of Commerce is so desperate that they will let me in, thankfully. But it's a similar thing where, like, I think they're not sure where to put it. And we bought this house recently, and one comment from one of my aunts, that Lisa's mom, my wife's mom, is one of her aunts. She was like, "What does Toby do?" Like, I mean, I've been married a long time, 13 years.
What does he even do?
Yeah, it, like, she couldn't believe that I could afford a house with Lisa, like.
I find the whole transition really unique. And, I have a corporate background. So going in my Wayback Machine and rolling the time machine back, I can remember driving through traffic, getting to the office, being frustrated, hanging out with people I didn't even like all day, right? And thinking, I can't wait till I can work from home. I cannot wait until I can work from home. And then I left the job and I started working from home. And I was married, 2 younger children, stay-at-home mom, that whole thing. And I got to be honest, it didn't take very long for me to say, I can't wait till I can rent an office. I can't wait till I can rent an office. I can't get anything done here. I got to get out. I got to go. I got to get where the people are.
Yep.
And the year that we rented our office, I literally more than doubled the business. And then when I changed from my old name to my new name, which is Mañana No Mas, that was like 2008 when things became official. We tripled our business that year because we changed our policies. But I think that's when I began to run it like a business, like I was employed, like the mental shift. I think that's when that happened.
What was the biggest policy change that you think influenced that bottom line?
The biggest policy change that we had was we no longer did things by deposit or on good faith. We said, we're the business. Like, we're the business. We have the office. We have the deliverable. Like, I have the reputation for being on time and on budget. So if I say I'm going to make this happen in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, it's going to happen. There are no more 50% deposits, pay the rest when it's done. Everything's paid up front and we execute. Now, if people are on monthly maintenance agreements and stuff, they pay the month in advance of those services being delivered. So we still have some recurring income, but for big projects, it's all up front. And it's been that way since 2008. And here's where I literally justified that. Like, because we had a ton of half-done projects and nobody was paying for stuff. Like, people just didn't have the income. And when you're working in the startup community, that's fairly common. People are bootstrapping this thing, right? And they don't know how they're going to make things happen. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I am a startup business. Well, like when this happened, right? I'm a startup business. How am I in a position to lend money and services to all these other people? I'm not. And if they can't pay me now, what makes me think they're going to pay me in 30 days when I'm done? Like, if they can't pay their project 30, 60, or 90 days in advance, they're not qualified to be my customer. And when I had that realization, we literally tripled our business.
Yeah. Here's the thing that kind of, like, I was talking with somebody who owns a small business. She has probably 8 employees. And she got stuck because she wanted to be a good boss. And she was paying her employees and she kind of, like, business got really good. And she started paying her employees a lot of money, like probably more than they would get elsewhere. And she treated them well. She had good vacation policies. But then the business was tanking. Not maybe tanking, I don't know, but it was going down enough to where she was like, oh, I'm feeling squeezed. And I've stopped taking a salary. And I was like, so the question that came up was me, like, what is a good boss? And I was like, first of all, I was thinking, like, I was conversing with her. I'm like, there's lots of ways to be a good boss. Salary is one lever you can pull. How do you approach that? Like, how do you approach your relationship with your employees? And I believe most or all are contractors. So,
yeah.
Which is a whole interesting thing in and of itself as being a boss. And what does that mean to be a good boss?
Most of mine are contractors. I'm thinking about the one person I routinely go to for tasks that I pay on an hourly basis. Technically, I guess I would say that's an employee, but they're not on a W-2. They're not. I'm just not doing that. And some people would say, well, then you're not a real business. Like, then we go back to that. Mm-hmm. We go right back to that. I literally work in a feast or famine way. So I have a lot of small projects that I kind of fill the gaps with. And I have people on staff that can execute those small projects pretty quickly at a good margin, and they're very happy to do it. Like, they're not even looking to work for me full time that way. They're not. They think of it the same way. Like, though, this is a cool small task Kurt's got for me, I can knock this out in addition to this other job that I have. And it works out for us. It's just a perfect, like, the puzzle pieces just fit. So why mess with it? Like why screw that up? And then the other side of our business is this. We're always looking for that big, e-learning kind of conversion site to take somebody from some custom-built SCORM website that's bankrupting them on the back end. We like to take them, put them in WordPress, save them a ton of money, and we're actually able to do the project and make a decent margin on it. And those are big projects for us. But I only get 1 or 2 of those a year, so it's feast or famine. And so that feast or famine mindset puts me back in the contractor role.
So how do you manage your cash flow? Can you give us like a high level? Do you I could imagine that you need to save money, right? Like you can't just be like,
you
great, we're rich again.
You can't spend it. You can't spend it. And you have to operate with a certain level of confidence. And that goes back to how we open the show, right? There's a certain level of confidence that says we execute this really well. And we know that we have top of funnel activity to keep that always working in the background. So even when my staff is, should I say staff, contractors, people, when my team is executing on those things through the funnel and work's coming out the bottom of the funnel, I'm still at the top of the funnel looking for the next job, the next referral, the next whatever. Big or small, my job is to keep that top of funnel working. Hence, that's why you see so much content from me online, right? If you follow me, you're looking at a lot of lives, you're looking at podcasts, you're looking at the office hours I do with Lifter, but I'm constantly scraping off of that and filling the top of the funnel. And you talked about that before. You said that you like to focus on sales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was thinking, a friend of mine recently had an agency contract. So he's an agency like ours, but he had a high percentage of his revenue, let's say 50%, it's probably more than that, was from one agency that was paying his agency.
Yeah.
And that went on for years. And so he built up his team. He was fired by that agency, or at least scaled back or something. And he was just sharing with me that he had to let all his employees, or maybe all, I think he did let all of his employees go because it was that they were all
that big of a deal.
Yeah. And we've talked about this a little bit, but I think for me, in my business, I've been trying to avoid that scenario for years now. And so I've been trying to build a very shallow and wider pool of clients that are each paying a little bit versus a few that are paying a lot.
Yeah. Do you want to go wide or do you want to go deep? And that's strategically, that's why I only take 2, maybe 3 of the deep projects a year. And then I pepper in the rest from width. Right? So width is stability and deep is profit if we think of things in those terms.
Yep. And and it can be very profitable, don't get me wrong, but then it's feast or famine world like we're talking about.
Yeah.
And most high-paid consultants experience this all the time, not only in our industry, but any industry. They get paid a ton. Yeah. I had a friend, brought on site at Amoco. He's getting paid $200 an hour for 80 hours a week for 2 months. But now he's got to find a new Amoco, and there's not too many Amocos in the world. There's only 5 or something.
No, and you see that a lot. And unfortunately, in these markets, there's a lot of animals of prey that work in these markets, right? So if you're a coach, consultant, if you're in that area, there's tons of marketing sent to you on a nonstop basis, right? Are you tired of not getting the right clients at the right time? Give us $5,000 and we'll show you our patented system on blah, blah, blah. And it's no, this is just junk. Just go do the work, network, send the emails, do the things that you think annoy people, right? But you're going to get to the right people, get that top of funnel going, and always have something working in the background. You've always got to.
Yeah. The coda for this colleague of mine who is that once he realized he didn't have any work, he went out and started networking, and then now he has plenty of work again. That's a challenge that I hear all the time from agency owners, the smaller agencies that don't have a dedicated sales team. So how can we build resilience in that sales process? that top of funnel.
I go back to process. You nailed it. You said process, right? Process is everything to me. And I think that that's where most agencies honestly fail. Like they just don't have process. They don't. So for me, time blocking is huge. So I have a certain amount of my week that is for sales, for outbound marketing, for those things. If you allow the feast or famine, oh, we got a big contract, we got to knock this out real quick. If you allow that to become 80% of your week and you focus on getting that done or pushing the project through, you fail at what your agency is going to do when that project is done. So you only, even if you get the huge, big project, you can only dedicate 45% of your time or energy to that project because you owe it to yourself to time block your week and dedicate enough time and energy. And the energy is the big part. You can't do it when you're tired. You got to do it when you're fresh. And you got to make it, the best calls, the best networking. You and I, we see this all the time, right? The people that come and go from networking events or from entrepreneur things like, hey, where's Bob been? I haven't seen him in a while. And then all of a sudden Bob shows up and he's starting shaking hands and buying drinks. And you're like, oh, Bob's broke.
Yeah. This is
Bob
interesting. And this idea of like building that process and doing it while you're fresh, not while you're starving, leads me to another thought of a question. It's like, how do you turn off the business world and take holiday time to invest with your family, or maybe you need to go on a solo camping trip where there's no internet? How do we do that?
If you're always panicked about cash flow, if you're always panicked about money, if you're always focused on transactions, you're going to be a very unhappy person. I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan and that kind of stuff, and you'll hear Joe say all the time, I know a lot of rich people that are miserable, And so if that's your goal, I guess you can pursue that. But it takes discipline. You got to be able to pull back sometimes and go, oh, this isn't healthy. I gotta do something. I've told you before, I'm big on the mountain bike thing. Like I need the physical activity, and that kind of recenters me, refreshes me, and launches me for whatever the next task is. But I think, for instance, my kid is volunteering at a camp for the summer, and me and my wife are packing up the camper van, splitting on Friday, and we're gone for the weekend. And I'm not emailing or calling nobody. Mm-hmm. And this is going to come out after I'm gone. So I can say it now, like there's no warning. I stopped giving customers warnings that, I'm going to be out of pocket for 3 days. No, because then everybody calls me the day that I'm leaving and tells me, I had a question. No, you didn't have a question. You just thought I was leaving town and you panicked. And so now I just go.
I do think like whatever your perceived damage is from that, and we all kind of, I don't know about you, but I experienced some like fear that my business is going to tank. If I'm not there on Friday, my business will be harmed for good. So I do a couple things. I would recommend that I try to do. I don't, not always, but first of all, it's going to be fine. Let's just start there. It'll be fine. But if that's not enough, what I like to do is write a list. I have, let's say I take next week off and I'm going to decide today, it's Monday. I'm just going to say, next week I'm taking off, come hell or high water. What I would do is like have a piece of paper, 3 columns, the worst case scenario, the best case scenario, and the likely scenario. And the worst case is always like, my business will fail. This person's going to tell everyone I suck. I'll get 10 bad reviews on Google. The best case is like, nothing happened at all. And the likely scenario is usually something close to that best case, except like I come back, I have some complaints, I have to like massage some relationships. It's usually the likely case is usually way closer to the best case than the worst case.
Well, and there's so many other things from an agency perspective that you can do to start building that before it becomes ahead. If your customers are emailing you directly for things, that's a red flag. Like create that support account, use a SaaS platform, do something, have a process that's like, this is what you do if you need support. This is the process if you have a question. And I tell people right up front, use the support link on the website, because when you use the support link on the website, that gives the whole team visibility to your issue, and you're not depending on me to answer your email, right? And I'm very clear with customers up front. Now, am I the team? Am I the team that's answering those support calls? Typically, yeah. duh. But if I'm going to take a week off, I'm probably going to take a contractor and say, hey, you know what? Let me just give you 2 hours a day to take care of the support tickets that come in or don't come in. And if anything's super important, you know that you can text me.
Well, this is interesting. You could, in theory, you could train your clients to not get real-time support. Unless they want to pay for urgent real-time support. None of them will, by the way. I mean, you might get someone, but then the expectation is something not real-time. I wonder if that would, let's say you're not you, but somebody's freaking out. I want to take time off, even one day. A lot of our colleagues have trouble with, and I'm like, okay, yeah, if you build a system where your clients normally get one business day responses, let's say, and then you can take that time.
You have to train people to get used to the 12 to 24 hour response time. Even if I see it come in, now be very clear, I have emergency boundaries, right? If your website is down or you can't take revenue, that's an emergency. You can text me, you can call me, whatever, right? But if it's I want to change the title on my call to action square, right? That is 12 to 24 hour support. You put in the ticket and we make it happen in 12 to 24 hours. And like I said, if you set the process, you could have a team member babysit that, that third party, whatever tool it is, because it's not your personal email. It's not coming to you. And even if I was paying someone to, because I hear this, like the 4-hour work week comes up, right? Oh, pay a virtual assistant to go through your emails before you get your emails. That's not reality. Reality is my phone's going to get the notification and it's going to distract me from the love and energy I'm supposed to be giving my family in that moment. And that's when things get wonky for me. So I train them to use the support link. My email and my text messaging should be customer free unless it's an emergency.
And maybe at least as important is this thing you just kind of brought up. You need to train yourself and put down the damn phone, turn off the internet, whatever it is. Like, this is the hardest part, I think, for us agency owners. And me too. Like, but this is the hardest part for me, maybe. I don't want to, but like, it's hard. And I don't know why it's hard, because there's no reason I couldn't just turn off the phone. And oftentimes when I do that, it's not like I miss it being on. I just, for some reason, it's like, I always think of like, it's just hard to take that step. And I don't know. I don't know why. Do you ever
love it?
Do you ever turn off everything?
Yes.
How often do you do that?
Every night at a specific time, my phone goes off. And every morning at a specific time, it comes on. I don't deal with anything at night. I have a nighttime thing. And then when we go mountain bike racing and I'm camping with my son and we're at the races, I use the phone to take pictures. Other than that, I don't do anything with the phone. We're gone.
You're talking, there's a way to think about this. Think of yourself as a retail establishment. Your Target, your Home Depot, whatever. They're not going to, you called them at midnight. Nobody's going to answer the phone at Target at midnight. But if you're there in business hours, they will address your question in real time, and you'll have to get in line. And there's a good lesson just in that practice you just described. I'm going to start doing that.
I didn't used to do it. I'm being blunt and honest. When we started in New Mexico, every broke startup business that didn't pay their invoices on time, that still had a problem with their website, I would do it whenever. 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, 4 o'clock in the morning, like whatever, because I was so afraid that they were going to say something negative to someone else in the business community that was local, let alone that they hadn't paid their invoices or compensated me yet, right? But I was just always in a panic, always. And I made everybody's problems my own problems. And it wasn't until I got a little older and a little more seasoned in the game when I realized, wait a minute, this isn't a Kurt problem. It's not that I'm not empathetic, but I'm not sympathetic. Like, hey, I can empathize with that. Within the boundaries of our scope of work, I'll take care of that for you. But outside of that, nope. You can pay me more or you can find another provider.
There are so many emergencies. I should say emergencies are relative to the person. It's totally subjective. I think, like, as an agency owner, and I need to I'm going to think about this more deeply. This is really interesting. I might change my policies on this. Because I'm like you. I'm like, if you have a website down, email or revenue interrupter, email me immediately, like text me, call me, stop by my house, whatever. But as we're talking about it, I'm thinking like I have no clients right now whose business would be noticeably impacted if their website was down for between 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. or 5 p.m. to 9 a.m.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe someone would lose a sale, but their business would not be impacted. I probably wouldn't lose them as a client if I jumped on it at 9 a.m. and was like, I see your website's down. Let's address that right away.
Yeah, no, I'm totally, and people are going to hear this and they're going to think, oh, well, I wouldn't want to use money on Amos. Their customer service must suck. Quite the opposite. Because we have set the proper expectations, our clients know what to expect. They know what an emergency is, and they know the process for non-emergencies, and they know that we take care of everything in a timely manner. So we don't ghost anybody. We don't ignore anybody. We treat everybody with equity. I mean, it's not that, right? So don't misread what's being said on the podcast. What we're saying is, for your personal mental health, you've got to have some boundaries, and then you have to have the discipline to respect those boundaries so that you don't alienate yourself from family, from yourself, from all that other stuff.
And I think, so I just went through the process of buying a house, and I think I've been trying to figure out, like, our guy, I would not recommend our realtor, but he was only available like 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 Central. And it was like a real frustration for me. And I've been trying to figure out, did it impact the sale at all? And I don't know if it did or not. It might have, but maybe not. And similar, I was like, for the Mighty Mo, like, does that availability impact our customers' businesses? And I would guess in both cases, probably not. There's probably edge cases where it might, but like, most stuff happens between 9 to 5 in the world.
Most stuff does.
Certainly most eyeballs on a website are happening between 9 to 5.
I even have customers in different time zones. Well, I'm sure we all do, right? And so sometimes I become a little more cognizant, right? Like, oh, this website's in the UK. This website's in Italy. This website's in... But meaning the business is based there, right? But when I look at the analytics and I look at the traffic, that's where I start to... I'm not going to say poo-poo the business. That's not my job. I'm not being judgmental. But if you've got a lot of these startups, they only have 50 or 100 visits a month on the website. You have to get realistic with it sometimes. Like when we build an e-learning website for a new course creator, there's actually a course on Lifter LMS that's like, how do you get to your first 10 paid students? Like, that's a huge milestone. And so people are going to hear this podcast and they're going to say, well, that's horrible. I thought they'd have thousands of... Well, where do those thousands of people come from? You got to get started somewhere. And these websites don't have the traffic. And so when we say that it's a non-emergency, it's because it's true. It's not an emergency. What, 2 people didn't see the website when they logged in on Tuesday? Like, it's not the end of the world.
Well, and as we're talking about like building our agency or building it, making it more resilient, one question that comes up regularly is like meetings, just in general. And one question would be like, do you ever feel overwhelmed by meetings? But the follow-up to that, or maybe the question that should come first is like, do you even need the meetings, But let's start with, do you ever feel overwhelmed with meetings? Because I think I think our audience and the audience of One Me is curious in the sense because I feel overwhelmed at some days. But
The only time that I really feel overwhelmed by meetings is I have a couple of people that we subcontract for. And one of those has a calendar where they set the security settings to where I can't sync that calendar with my calendar. So my stress comes from, let's say you and I have a podcast scheduled. We're going to do it Wednesday at 10 o'clock. This particular contract is going to have a client that schedules a meeting Wednesday at 10 o'clock. It just always seems to happen that way. And so then I have to do that antiquated back and forth email like, oh, I'm sorry, there's a conflict at that time. Can we meet at 9 or can we meet at 11? Now, well, I really needed to meet. No, I'm not available then. Well, your calendar says you are. Because it's not synced with my other calendars. I'm sorry. That's the only real stress I have.
Well, this is interesting. In light of what we've talked about, it seems to me that like that scenario of sharing that level of access with my calendar or your calendar should come with a premium price tag. And there's other things too, perhaps, that fit in that. Like, I think like as an agency owner, if something's really bothering you, you might want to put a premium on it, like whatever the thing is.
Yeah. So I have a thing where you can schedule a meeting with me, 30 minutes, no charge. 30 minutes. First 30 minutes is free. And then I had a client under a statement of work that kept using that link to schedule meetings, like just whenever. And I was like, hold on. So after like the fourth time, I was like, are you scheduling these meetings so that you feel better about the project? Like, I just need to know why we're having this meeting. I just need to know what's going on. I said, well, you have access to the platform. You have access to the Gantt chart. You have access to see, our notes on what's been done. We try to communicate in a very transparent way. And then I went back to your proposal stated that we planned on 6 meetings for this whole project, and you're currently on meeting 5. So are you prepared to have one more meeting before we launch? Or do you think we're going to need more meetings than that? Because I'll have to have a discussion about the rate. And all of a sudden, we didn't need any more meetings.
Mm-hmm.
It's understanding what people, just because I have a link doesn't mean you get to use that over and over and over again.
Well, and it's interesting too, like, let's say there's a price to those meetings, those extra meetings. What dollar amount is going to vary by customer, but like the dollar amount's pretty low probably. Like, let's say you charge $15 per call, which is pretty low. I bet you could cut off half the calls that you get if you just, oh, is it at $15 important?
Yeah.
No, it's not 15. Well, if it's not $15, I don't want to talk about it.
So I started selling Mañana No Mas as a consultancy and not as a web design house. And so the consultancy is where the value is. And I'm very straightforward about this. I started to realize that these startups and these other corporations, they were getting me on calls and they weren't asking about the website. They were asking about, do you think this is good marketing copy? Do you think this is going to convert? I was thinking about hiring this go high level expert. What would you do? What would you do for this search engine optimization thing? And I'm like, you know what? It's straight agency rate. You want my consultative time on a call in a meeting, and they're bringing people and they're recording the session and they're taking notes. They're getting their value. But I tell them it's straight agency time.
So this is interesting. Something I've been thinking about, and we talked a little bit about it last week. So you're an agency owner. So you own an agency with valuable processes and people. However, particularly maybe as a consultancy, is your business saleable? Would anyone ever buy it without you in it?
That's the rub, isn't it? That's the hard question. And I see it's one of our notes, and I was thinking in the background, like, how are we going to work this into the conversation? But my company name used to be Von Annen Designs and PR when I very first launched. And then it wasn't even a year in, I don't think. And someone said, what if you ever wanted to sell your business? Would you be wanting to sell your name? And then I was like, you know what? I don't think so. And like, there's a guy in town that has an insurance company. His name's David, but the insurance company is named something else. And I'm like, that's just weird. Like, you're someone else's name to do business forever. And so the whole story about Mañana No Mas is pretty entertaining. I won't share it here because it takes too long. I lost my temper one day and I yelled at someone, said Mañana No Mas. And then the guy running the office said, that'd be a great name for your business. And I was like, all right, that's what it is. And it's been Mañana No Mas ever since. And now I can't change it. It's too well branded.
Yeah, you're stuck.
But it's going to be for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, because I'm 57 years old. And we bring in revenue, and we have demonstrable revenue, and we have demonstrable process. I'm really hitting hard on process, it seems like, this episode, but I'm in the middle of creating training for this, right? And so I'm thinking about all the different processes and how we've built this over time. Other agencies, you know this, because we talk to people. We go to events. We ask people, oh, how do you do this? And they go, oh, I just kind of this, I just kind of that. And it's like, no, if you don't have process, you don't have anything that's measurable or duplicable, which means you don't have anything you can sell.
And so one thing that we've talked about is really weird about the most of the web agency, WordPress agencies for sure, but most web agencies they're not founded with an exit in mind. And so one thought exercise that would probably make your business a lot stronger, even in the short run, would be like, how can I restructure this business so it's more saleable? And there's this great book. It's called Built to Sell, and it's a fictional story, but it's really illustrative of this idea. This guy had a design agency, and he was making a bunch of money, but like the idea was you start with the end in mind, and I I don't have a plan to sell the business. However, it would be nice. And I'm getting old too. Every day I'm older. So what do you think is like one thing, if someone's like been running an agency for a few years, what's one thing they might do to make their business more saleable? Like one tactical on the ground thing.
I'm going to say it like it's one thing, but it's not. And that is documentation. You know how you're doing something. I say this, so this is an analogy I use for a lot of different scenarios, but have you ever seen the show Hoarders before?
No, but I've heard of it.
So people live in an unbelievably cluttered home, right? And clutter's not even the word. People die in a pile of their own trash and excrement in a house that one day they saw empty and said, oh, what a beautiful home, and bought the home. Now, over time, something happened psychologically to them where they just never cleaned it, right? They just kept amassing stuff until they became a hoarder, and that's what happened. But they never had that goal when they started. And so I think running an agency is a lot like having the potential to become this hoarder. Focus on, hey, what was the snapshot of who I was when I started this thing? And what's the snapshot that I want to be when I finish this thing? And what are the steps to get to that? And so if we don't put documentation and process into place, and we don't discipline ourselves in that way, we end up with a hoarder kind of thing. I'm very big on like missions and visions and all that. Like, I know what kind of work, I know what kind of client I want, I know the types of projects I want my agency to do. We could say we make stuff for the internet for everybody, but then we become that hoarder. We end up with a license to every single plugin on the planet. We end up not really understanding our skill set or where our strengths are or what tools are required for our business. But if I take, out of the 65,000 plugins in the repository, if I pick 20 to 25 of them that become my core tech stack, and I can make something that is duplicable and a process to make other customers happy, I have a product.
I think like it can feel overwhelming to think about the end, but one way that I like to think about it is like, where would I like to be in 10 years from now? So right now I'm 46. I would get out a piece of paper. When I'm 56, I would like to be living in Minneapolis. Oh, by the way, I start that with, I'll have a kid who's 24. I'll have a kid who's 21. I'll have a kid who's 16. And my wife will be how old she'll be. And I'm like, and so some of my things are like, if I were to write it today, and I try to write it, I should do it more often, but I probably do it every few years when I start to feel like I'm off track. And by the way, I don't know that I'm off track. I just start to feel it. Like, yeah. And I have an illustration I can give in a bit if we want, but I do that exercise. I'm like, okay, in 10 years, I see myself in the same house I'm in. I would like it to be cleaner, whatever that means. I would like to to play a gig with my Cake Dad band, my cover band that plays Cake songs. I would like to do that. I would like to build a stronger relationship with these 5 people, and maybe we're good friends in 10 years. So I start making a list like that. By the way, I would like to have X amount of dollars in the bank saved. So I'd like to start with like 10 years, and it's pretty easy. You can do this, it doesn't take too much energy. In fact, it can be kind of fun. And then I do 5 years, and then I'm like, okay, 1 year, where do I start? Like, what can I change today to get me there? And there's help for you, by the way, and very inexpensive help. Like, there's a book called Traction that's all about this. It's a different process, but it's a process to get you to that 10-year goal, whatever your goal is. And they'll lay it out. And you can it's a big, some would call it a pyramid scheme, but I've done it. It's helpful. I'm not saying it's for everybody. I've heard lots and lots of complaints about it, but you can just buy the book and start with the book. And there's some great ideas. And you mentioned 4-hour work week. If you need ideas on where to start, there's 4-hour work week is probably the best place to start. If you're just like, I have no ideas.
Yeah. Something in your answer was really important, though, right? So it was like understanding where do I want to be in 10 years, but then what does that look like if I do a split and then 1 year? Because if you constantly think 5 years and 10 years, it's too far away. And then you end up postponing and never getting started. Next thing you know, 10 years is here and you haven't done nothing, right? So you want to have that 1 year thing. So I tend to work on short-term and long-term goals. I use a thing called SMART goals, which I think was what you were defining, right? Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it, achievable? The relevant and time-based, right? So that's SMART, right? So I use short-term goals, long-term goals. I use the SMART architecture to make sure that I can actually achieve it. And then follow up. And you have to be able to take snapshots and milestones to be able to say, I achieved something or I didn't. And then it's okay to tweak it. It's everyone gets lost. They create this cement thing. I'm going to be here in 10 years, come hell or high water. And it's like, no, things happen. The market fluctuates. We get a different president. Things happen. Country goes to war. Things happen. So you have to be able to tweak and maneuver, but you want to make sure you're constantly going forward.
Yeah. This reminds me, I'm part of the traction process and is creating processes. It's like part of it is okay, you want more recurring revenue. What's one thing you can do to get started on that path? And I listened to a podcast, it was on the Business Insider YouTube channel, but it's why massive projects this is the title of the podcast episode, why massive projects like California's high-speed rail almost always fail. You might be surprised. The reason is that they're always building something completely new. And if they had just gone out, this is the theory. So they have this, basically the gist of it is California has a massively over budget, numbers that you wouldn't believe beyond, basically they can't finish this huge rail line that they're building.
Yeah.
And you can see it you see it every 4 years with the Olympics, same problem. It's the same exact problem that if they just hired the company that builds large stadiums every day or whatever, and maybe it's not a U.S. company, maybe it's not a local company, but you go to, I don't know, wherever these companies exist, or the train company, and maybe you met, Kurt and I were talking earlier, could be some of it regulation gets in the way, and you need to in order to make these large changes and projects work, you need to do the old thing again, and so I think everyone's probably really bored with this, when it comes to running a sustainable agency, but what works? Just do that.
Yeah. Look at someone that's successful and then try to emulate what they did.
And so, an example would be WordPress. Let's say you own a WordPress agency. Just use Elementor. Just use Beaver Builder. Don't even use Gutenberg because they're changing it all the time. Use something that isn't going to change, and you can move faster and cheaper, and you have more space for this other stuff and more money to hire people. I would start with something as simple as that.
And to your point, start, right? And then I'm not saying that we ever stop learning or stop growing or but with our productive time, again, I go back to time blocking, right? If I time block my week, I've got stuff for sales and marketing, I've got stuff for personal development, and I've got stuff for productivity, for the job, for what we do. And so that personal development time for me, I've been diving into getting better with AI. I've been diving into, I signed up for Etch, right? Speaking of page builders. So I'm signed up for Etch. I got no idea how to use Etch, how to put some time aside and really dive into it, do a deep dive. I swapped from Elementor to Bricks a year and a half ago. But that doesn't mean I stopped working with Elementor on my current Elementor sites and clients. And that all came, let's just be honest, Toby, I'm about 15, 18 years into running what some people say is a successful agency is when I started to pepper in these extra things. You can't possibly come into the WordPress space and be like, I'm going to be an expert on everything and knock it out of the park. Mm-hmm. You gotta pick your strengths, market accordingly, and have vision and mission to make sure that it comes together.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most boring examples of this, and it's not a success yet, I'll mind you, but the Mighty Mo now does SEO as of a year and a half ago. And it's something I could have gotten into 20 years ago. I considered it. It's an old game, but
Yeah.
it's still here. It's still as boring and exciting as it's ever been. Like, nobody's going to look at you and say, wow, you're a cutting edge person for doing SEO. But I'm like, I don't know. There's a lot of business value there. Like,
Well, SEO, people are jumping the gun. They're saying SEO is dead. And there's no way that it's dead, because if you do research using AI and then you ask the AI, how did you make this referral? Or how did you, because when AI gives me an answer, I'm always like, well, where did that come from? So I say, how did you make this decision? How did you make this referral? It'll say, here's a list of resources we used. And the top listing every single time is search results.
right. Right.
So
Yeah.
SEO is not dead.
Right.
And search isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Just because you use a different tool to get to the search. But now, think about it this way. SEO used to give you pages of results. And then you, as the end user, would look at those pages of results and try and determine what's the most relevant and visit the ones you wanted to visit. But if you search with AI, it gives you 2 or 3 referrals, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So now if you're not in the top 2 or 3 of your search results, you're not even in the game.
Well, and I was having a conversation just this morning with my SEO guy, Glenn, because we're planning an upsell to an existing client on SEO, and he was pitching me. He's like, put together a presentation. He's like, look, everything's going down for them. And I'm like, well, and we were talking about AI results as being one of the reasons potentially. And he was all down, like, and he was emotionally down. He's like, oh, we're just screwing it up. And I'm like, no, this is green pastures. Like, this new and interesting thing called AI search results, no-click results, is ruining everything we've ever done for SEO, anything anyone's ever done. And so let's learn it and let's sell the heck out of it.
Yeah. I've done some deep diving, again, with the time blocking, but my personal development time working with AI was, how can I best locally optimize Mañana No Mas for the startup work that we do? And the results I got from AI and the advice I got from AI was pretty incredible. Change this on your LinkedIn, change this on your Facebook, change this on your TikTok. I'm like, I didn't even consider that stuff.
Yeah.
Add this to your homepage. You already have national business, so you don't need that on the homepage. Now your homepage needs to reflect the local stuff. Put your Chamber of Commerce picture on there. And I'm like, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I think, like, when I think of simplifying, the simplest thing I can encourage anyone to do, who's any sort of business owner, agency owner, whatever, is you got to sell. Like, figure out what sells and do more of that, whatever that is. And in our space, like, we have all sorts of people in our space selling all sorts of, we're all basically selling the same thing, but describing it very differently oftentimes. And figure that thing out. Like, you've got the LMS space nailed down, but really, I could, in theory, I could sell LMS, but I've never sold an LMS in all my life. I sell
subcontract Mañana No Mas to build it.
Yeah, no, I don't mean, well, yeah, I could, but like, I don't even pitch it. Like, I'm always like, we could build that with a normal marketing site. Like, it's like, that's what I know. It's boring. It's something I can build processes around, and there's, if you can sell it, as long as you're selling it, there's plenty of money in it.
I've actually become really crafty at upselling LMS type services to people that had no intentions of having an LMS.
Exactly.
Because if they have a consumer-based product, I say, well, you, out of the gate, you got 3 courses that you need. You need one so that boots on the ground, so that regional reps can sell the product. So product and feature, right? So you need product and feature training. Then you need training for the customer to know how to use the product properly. And then you need training for service people in the field to fix it when it doesn't work.
Yep. And what you're describing is so cool. Like, it's like, I've never once pitched that. And I could totally see the upsell there, because you sell what you know. And that's kind of the gist of it here. Like, okay, you own an agency, sell what you know.
Sell what you know. Sell what you know.
If you're a great coder, sorry, go.
Running coaches and athletic coaches have a whole marketplace that they can sell to. Again, go back to what you said. What are your strengths? Sell to your strengths. And then as you grow, you can backfill other categories. Mm-hmm. Let's switch gears. Mm-hmm. I want to switch gears because we've talked a lot about building your agency. Uh-huh. So let's say you've built your agency. Now you got to take revenue in.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. So, broad strokes. Are you a fan of banks or credit unions?
I have both. I actually So this might be really sad. I have no idea what a credit union is compared to a bank. I have both for my business. I have Capital One, which is probably the biggest bank in the world or something like that. And then I have our local credit union. And I don't have like a grand strategy. I just like having options. What is a credit union, Kurt?
So a credit union is like a bank, but it's owned by the members. And it's like a profit share from the members. And so fundamentally, there's a couple of things that I like about credit unions. Because, for example, let's say you're a small business and their loan decisions aren't typically made strictly by what's your credit score, right? So you're a business and you're like, this is how I want to impact the community. And this is what we do with this. And this is what we do with that. And then, so there's extenuating circumstances that a credit union would take a look at and go, well, based on the best interest of our members, we're going to approve this loan or this feature or whatever. Whereas a bank's going to be like, you didn't qualify, hit the skids. So, So there's that, right? So it's basically like one's a commercial enterprise that is owned by investors, I guess. And then one is owned by the members. But then I get stuck with the strength of the organization. So, and maybe I started the discussion, maybe you started the discussion. I got kind of lost in how these notes came about. But when we moved from California to Kansas, I have been, just full disclosure, I've been with Wells Fargo since 1994, but there is no Wells Fargo in Hutchinson, Kansas. Mm-hmm. So then I'm like, well, I don't want to go to Wichita every time I got to go to the bank, right? And so then I was like, well, we got to start looking for a local bank. And so we've been struggling. Like, do we want to use this credit union, or this bank, or this bank? And I'm part of the Chamber of Commerce, and they have lots of after-hours events where you go and you meet these people. And I've started to like make friends with people that work at a certain bank. So do I make my business decision to bank at that bank because I bicycle with one of the ladies that works there? Or do I go to the credit union because it's the smarter deal? I don't know.
Right. I think like with a lot of this, there's no right answer, of course.
This would be a poll
Yeah.
for the podcast. Do you prefer a credit union or a bank?
Yeah, and there's different reasons for both. Because like, here's an example. My kids, I have two kids in the middle school across the street. And one of the kids' mom is one of the front desk people there. And I tell you what, it's been enormously helpful to have a personal connection with this person, because I go in there, I'm like, Ansel said this, and da-da-da-da. And she's like, oh, that's not how it happened, though, Toby.
Yeah.
Like, oh, thank you for letting me know, because he told a different story.
I think having a local entity to do business with is really important, because I'm suffering from that national feeling, right? Yeah. But there's also a part of me, and might be childish, but I think to myself, I've been with the bigger bank for decades. That shows consistency. That shows so to me, right? So I don't necessarily want to close those accounts, but I need something local.
Yeah. Well, and I think you nailed something too. Capital One has no branches that I know of anywhere. Maybe they have them somewhere, but their online tools are fantastic.
Yeah.
Whereas our credit union, it's clearly like a hodgepodge of services. As I log in, it's like I log in, I click here to see the statements, a new window opens up with a new URL.
Nothing like a feeling of security with your thousands of dollars.
Yeah, but they do have a branch, and so I can go into the branch and take care of stuff. Along these lines, oh, sorry. I was thinking, what tool do you use to collect ACH payments? These are, so someone, they can pay with a credit card, they can mail a check to you, or you could do it online. Basically, it's a check online.
Yeah.
What's your credit card's kind of easy and well trod. However, I've noticed that ACH payments, not so straightforward. Do you do ACH online?
I do. So I have a SaaS platform that I use to operate my business with. And so I have messaging for bigger contracts. So let's be real clear. I'm lazy. I use Stripe. I didn't go crazy trying to make my own credit card payment gateway or anything nuts, right? It's a Stripe, plug and play, done. 2.9%, 30 cents on every transaction, whatever, fine, done. But when you sell somebody a $10,000 package and they're like, well, I guess I could put it on, Amex Silver, whatever, you're like, oh my God, what's 3% of $10,000? I don't want to pay $300 today to make a sale. when an ACH transfer is $25, right?
Right.
I think it's $25. So I have a SaaS platform where I can create an invoice and then give them the details to make that ACH transfer. And they'll do it from just bank to bank. And it works really easily for me.
And it's $25?
It's $25 for like a wire transfer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they put in the routing and they put in the account number and boom, right?
Got it.
There's other tools. I mean, there's Zelle and there's other tools to transfer things around, but they have limits. Even the ACH transfers, depending on your bank policy, has limits. So I've found that using either a SaaS platform that uses ACH as a payment gateway, or I don't want to misspeak, but I will anyway. I think Lifter LMS has the option for ACH payments in their payment gateway.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so I'd have to double check for limits and stuff. But then, I could create a hidden membership for $10,000 and send it to my customer and they could sign up that way. So there's all kinds of ways, but then we come back to what's the process? Is it duplicable? Right. And then how?
Yeah. And that process you described with Lifter, duplicable, however, clearly a hack.
Clearly a hack. Yeah. So
it's interesting. Yeah, I've struggled with it because Stripe's ACH fee is only $5. However, in order to do a Stripe ACH, you need to get their info. They deposit 2 deposits into their account. You need to confirm those deposits. It's that process that you're familiar with. So basically unworkable. It's like too complex. I've done it, but I use Harvest. However, their tool doesn't work well for ACH, and it's transparent, $5 you pay to Stripe. They don't take anything. So that would be ideal if it worked, but I like the idea. Maybe there's an invoicing plugin for WordPress that has a better way to do it with Stripe or some service. I'll look into that. I didn't think about that.
Well, if there is, it sounds like something we can cover as a follow-up in the next show.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing, just as maybe this is a good way to end it, a good happy story. I was thinking, I think last time we were talking about all the SaaS services that the Mighty Mo subscribes to, and it's like, I don't know, let's say $500 a month. And that doesn't include hosting and stuff. Just like, hey, we have SEO, $200 a month. This is $100 a month. But it's probably like 10 to 20 services. And oftentimes when I sign up for those, I use a tool that Capital One provides, which is like a really easy way to have temporary credit cards that expire. You can have them per site, and they expire whenever I want them to expire. So I always set them, if I'm like not sure I'm going to need it next month. So I did this with Canva Pro recently. I was like, I don't know, I'll try it out for $15, but I don't want to get a $15 bill next month unless I really want it.
Yeah.
And so I use one of these. So with Capital One, it's just built in, and it has a browser extension for Chrome, and it's super easy. But I use that, and then I'm like, then I get the email in a month. They're like, you haven't paid. What are we gonna do? You clearly screwed up. Come on, the email from Canva, and then I fix it if I want to. So I just wanted to mention that as like a nice tool that you could have in your tool belt. You do need. I'm sure other banks have this. Maybe Wells Fargo does too. But so something in your tool belt that you could have that can help you manage expenses.
That is a cool tool. Because getting those unexpected recurring payments that never seem to go away is a pain in the rear. A lot of these SaaS platforms, even if you cancel, they still bill you for 2 or 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to see how much they can eke out of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably going to that no-code meetup with you and getting ideas.
Yeah, exactly. And next time, wait till you hear this, listeners who've made it all the way to the end. We are going to have book recommendations for you. And they're going to be, well, I guess it could be anything, but I was thinking businessy book recommendations.
Okay.
But maybe we'll have other categories.
I'm in. I've got a few off the top of my head I think I can recommend.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. This has been Whose WordPress Agency Is This Anyway? I'm Toby Crines, here with Kurt Von Annen. Kurt, how can people find you?
LinkedIn is a great way for a personal connection. Kurt Von Annen on LinkedIn. I'm the only one there. Easy to find. And then business is Mañana No Mas.
And I can also be found on LinkedIn. My last name is CRYNS, and themightymo.com. Thank you all. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the WP Minute, part of the Matt Report Media Network. This episode wouldn't be possible without our amazing pillar sponsors, Pressable, Kinsta, GoDaddy, 20i, and Elementor. These brands are supporting WordPress media and helping us invest in your future as a WordPress professional. Our Foundation Plus sponsors like Hostinger, Big Scoots, Stellar WP, Personalized WP, Weglot, and Patchstack help us keep the lights on. Thanks to all of our members in the WP Minute Slack channel, which you can join too. Head on over to thewpminute.com/support to get access. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to hit the share button or tell a friend about this podcast. See you in the next one.